Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at how I would look at compressors in 2023. So I'll be just making some sort of motif here in front of you guys, and I'll be experimenting with something which I've been getting asked a lot lately. Is it good to use a normal stock compressor in every instrument, or is it good to use multipressors in any of the channels that you're making? So let's find out. Let's do an experiment by ourselves, and you be the judge and I'll also be the judge on how different it would sound if you just put a compressor on every channel and then put a multipressor on a stereo out, or you put a multipressor on every channel and then you don't have to put any compressors in the stereo out, and let's see how the results are. So I have a piano over here, and this is a contact Neuer-Felt, and I'll be doing a separate video on this VST if I like it or not. In short, I do, but there is certain catch on it, so watch out for the space, and I'll be making another video on this. But let's just create a 4x4 at 120, let's say, a normal piano motif. So let's do that. Alright, that sounds pretty okay to me. Let's just quantize quickly and let's hear if the notes are not going here and there. Alright, sounds nice. Let's just look at the sustain pedal also. By the way, I'm using a sustain pedal, and that's why it's automatically recording my expression pedal that I'm pressing through my foot. But if you don't have a sustain pedal, you can definitely go to the automation section over here for the piano roll and go to the channel and go to sustain option, select that, and it would just show up here, and then you can automate whatever notes you want to sustain or not. So let me just increase the volume for the bass notes and reduce these are too high, and I think that would sound perfect. So now let's go ahead and put the stock compressor of Logic, and let's hear how different we can make it sound. So I'm just using the vintage FET over here, putting the ratio to 4:1, and then I'm going to be playing with the threshold so that we have a gain reduction of -5 dB. Just the standard things. So let's just hear how it sounds. So let me just go to the dynamic section of Neuer-Felt. Let's hear it once again. Alright, so I think -26 dB as a threshold, 4:1 ratio, a makeup gain of about 2.5 dB, an attack of 7 milliseconds, and a knee around 0.6 is sounding decent enough. But it's not sounding punchy enough. So let's just make it better through an EQ for now. And let's find out the body of the piano. So let me just cut down the low. Then let's find out. So I like the bass of this bandwidth. Just brings out good bass. There's some clarity lacking in the piano section, so let me just bring that up. All right. All right. Great. So let's just A-B the compressor. This is the stock compressor on a piano. Let's hit it up. Meh, decent. Let's turn on the compressor. All right. Sustain notes are pretty dynamic across the board, but is it any better from a multipressor, or is multipressor better than the normal compressor, a single band compressor? So for those of you who don't know about compressors, just a quick recap. A compressor is an effect plugin which evens out the dynamic range of an instrument. What it does is that, let's say I've put a threshold at minus 26 dB, so any transients in that instrument, for example this time it's a piano, any transient that is above the threshold of minus 26 dB, it will be cut down below the 26 dB, or any transients that are working below 26 dB, it would be boosted so that you have an even out dynamic range of all of the transients in the instrument. So all of the low sounding notes would be boosted, and all of the high sounding notes or high hitting transients would be cut down so that it's not jarring to your ears. That's basic use of a compressor. You use all of the ratios, the makeup gains and threshold to even out and find the perfect mix. Usually it's between 3.5 to 4, but you can experiment for 8, 12, 20, 35 to 1.4 depending upon your instrument or any of the audio channels that you've recorded. So let's now duplicate this track and copy paste the same thing, but this time I'm going to be using a multipressor. So let me just go ahead and select a multipressor. Now, what is a multipressor? A multipressor is a dynamic compressor which compresses each and every band based on the band size that you decide between 20 Hz and 20 kHz. So a single band compressor evens out the compression for all of the band across the board, but a multipressor helps you just compress a portion of the frequency range of that instrument. So for this example, since we are using a piano and we have already done a EQ on it, we can see that the body lies between 100 to 200 Hertz, and that is where there's a good mix of bass. But there are some resonancy bits where I've put a subtractive EQ over here, which is close to about 550 Hertz and 765 Hertz. But I've also put an additive EQ to about 2400 Hertz and 6000 Hertz, and that is where I want to bring out the brightness of the piano. So it doesn't really make sense to compress any frequency below, let's say, 80 Hertz or 75 Hertz. So that doesn't make sense. So what I'll do is I'll just bring down the multipressor band to about 85 Hertz, if you can see over here, right? And this is a place where I don't want to do any kind of compression. So what I'll do is I'll just bypass this completely. So I don't want that. Or you can just let it be, but do not do any compression over here, and that would work. But I would like to bypass so that it doesn't affect any of these numbers. So that's a good way to start. But over here, I want to have 100 to, let's say, 300 of a band, or let's say 100 to 500. That is where I want to do the compression. So about 550, and this is where I would like to compress. Next, we can then do a band for about 550 to 2k Hertz, and that is where we are putting some subtractive EQ, and that's fine. And then the last of the band is about 2000 Hertz to 20k Hertz, right? So we have now decided upon the bands, and this is how I go about it. But now what multipressor helps you do is that you can compress each and every band and you can solo it out so that you can hear that band itself. So I'm just bypassing the multipressor, and let's just hear it once again. Let me mute the first portion. Alright, so let's solo the second band and let's hear how it sounds. So you can just hear that portion of the piano. You're not able to hear the frequencies of other ranges which I've selected over here. So what this helps is to isolate that section and then compress it individually. Now what I've done is that we've boosted the portion between 100 to let's say 300 hertz, right? So it might go overboard if I increase the volume or the gain, and that is where the gain makeup comes into play. Now, something to notice, if we go back and if just to be on a plain level field, we've put a makeup gain of 2.5 dB. Now, this is a single band compressor, which we've put on the first track. Now, here is the difference of a multipressor. You can definitely boost individually for all the bands. So for this band, I'm boosting about 1.5 dB, but I do want to do a compressed sound. So if you look at the threshold for the previous one, it was about minus 26 dB. That was across the board. But let's figure that out and let's put that over here so that we compare the difference more or less in the same bands. So it was 26 dB and the ratio was about 4, right? All right. Let me boost it a bit. Great. So now let's solo the third band, which is between 500 to 2000. This is how it sounds. Let's again put to minus 26 and then 4 across the board. And let's reduce this portion by 0.5 dB because we've cut the resonancy bit and there are some resonancy bits in this band. So let's just cut that. All right. And now let's go ahead and solo the last band and put again to minus 26 dB and a compression of about 4. And let's put a makeup gain of about 2.5. All right. So now that we have done compression on each and every band, and we've also put the numbers which are exactly the same as the previous compressor, the single band compressor, let's hear it all together. Alright, I don't know if you've heard, but I find it a little different from the single band compressor. But let's do an A/B test in front of you guys. So let me just keep the multipressor over here and let's go back to the first one and put the single band compressor over here. And let's do an A/B testing for both of them. So there you have it. I think it's clear as night and day. Multipressor has a more soothing effect on overall transients, and that's because it's a simple logical understanding. A single band compressor, what it does is that it's evening out and it's acting on all of the frequencies across the board, without taking into consideration the EQs of certain body ranges of transients, certain resonancy bits, or any of that sort. And if you can hear, it's pretty jarring to your ear when you're hearing a single band compressor. Sometimes it's compressing too much, other times it's not even loud enough for you to hear the low sounding notes. And that is the key of a multipressor. It helps you decide on each and every band that you want to act. You also can decide on the amount of compression that you're putting on each and every band. You also can decide on which band to not even let the multipressor work on, and that is what I've done. I've not let the multipressor work on a certain band which I'm not wanting to go ahead with. The multipressor definitely evens out much more better and does the job much more better than a single band compressor. But having said that, let me just point out something. We have just used one instrument as of now. If you put multipressor on almost all of the instruments, your project is gonna sound very heavy and it's gonna take a lot of processing power. But I would suggest for you to decide on the compressors based on the instruments that you're using. Do an A/B testing just like we did right now. Put a compressor, single band compressor on an instrument and then a multi-band compressor, and then do an A/B testing and see if it's sounding better. Don't do too much with a multi-band compressor. It can go really wrong on a lot of parts, and trust me, this comes from experience. I have ruined entire mixes and masters based on this. I've just used a simple a fact sheet and I've just put all of the multipressors on all of the instruments, and it's not sounding nice. It didn't sound nice at all. So try and keep few instruments with a single band compressor so that you don't have too much of load on your PC or your Mac or your laptops. But it is evident that multi-band compressor is much more advanced tool and a much more professional tool at that sense, and you can get a much better mix if you are using multi-band compressor on various instruments and an overall mix. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick little video on a comparison with compressors, and I've been getting questions a lot of times whether to use compressors or multi-band compressors on single channels. And I hope this video answers your questions. Let me know in the comments down below if you liked it, if you have any other questions, or if you want me to make videos on some other points. It would really help me. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps the channel a lot. We are growing steadily and slowly. I hope you guys support me through this journey, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, cheers.